Welcome, everybody. Let's talk politics, our favorite subject.
Yes.
All right. Virginia's primary election is coming up August 4th. There's a lot at stake this year, and here to help us break it all down, we have ABC 13 political analyst Dr. David Richards with the University of Lynchburg. Always great to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
How about we start with the 5th Congressional District?
Absolutely.
All right, let's do it. We're going to jump right to the 5th District. There are two Republicans on the ballot. You've got Congressman John McGuire. He's the incumbent against challenger Melanie Lucero. How much of a fight can Lucero put up against McGuire?
Well, I think she's definitely making the effort, and we can see in her campaigning she's getting out there. But McGuire has also stepped up his campaigning. He is out there a lot, going to events. So it is a more interesting battle than probably we thought a couple months ago. I think a couple months ago we thought he was not going to get challenged. It was going to be smooth sailing. I think at the end of the day, though, it is probably John McGuire's to lose. He will probably win handily.
Why would she step in the race?
Well, I think she probably feels that, there's an opportunity to at least get noticed.
Yeah.
And of course, anything could happen. Of course, this is an election. But I think it's an opportunity for her to sort of get noticed and get into the spotlight a little bit. There are people who are dissatisfied with McGuire. There are people maybe still holding a grudge from his battle with Bob Good last time. So I think she saw kind of an opening at least to be in the race and to be part of this primary.
Is there a way, you know how presidential elections go in primaries and they beat up on each other and you're so damaged, and then there's even some video clips that can be used in campaign commercials and so on. Can this be a situation where she does that to him, kind of beats up on the incumbent?
Well, I think that's the danger, right, is that she does some sort of damage to McGuire during the primary in order to sort of get her word in. And then whoever wins the Democratic primary, spoiler, probably Tom Perriello, uses that against McGuire during the regular election. And that's the danger that they both candidates face, is their opponents dig up the dirt, and then when they get to the actual general election, all that dirt is already out there.
All right. That's the 5th for the Republicans. Let's take a look at the 5th Congressional District for the 3 Democrats running in the 5th. There's Suzanne Krasinowski, Tom Perriello, like you just mentioned, and Rob Trzynski. Now, Perriello, as you know, Dr. Richards, has the most name recognition there. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, so of course, Perriello won the 5th when it was sort of the old 5th, when Obama got elected in 2008. That was a different district, and he won it by literally several hundred votes, so it's not like sort of an overwhelming amount. And then he lost it during the next election in 2010. So he has the name recognition, he has the support of the party. In terms of polling and money raised, he has far outstripped these other two folks. I think it's sort of his to win at this point. I will say that Trzynski is kind of an interesting person. He was a former Tea Party member, and he feels that really the No Kings movement that has cropped up under the Democrats reflects the Tea Party in a kind of a weird way, right? So he's kind of an interesting character. That said, I don't think it's enough to overcome the momentum that Tom Perriello has going into this primary.
You think this could be a Perriello-McGuire race?
That is what I'm looking to see happen. If that doesn't happen, I will be very surprised.
If that does happen, does Perriello put up a good fight?
I think so. I think so, right? He has a lot of name recognition. Like I said, even though the 5th is not the same district it was, 10, 20 years ago, it's enough of the same that he has a lot of people who liked what he did, that supported him, that he can give McGuire a run for his money. Is Tom Perriello going to win against McGuire? I don't think so. I think that would be a very big upset, but you never know, and he's going to make it, I think, pretty close.
We try to keep things fair, okay?
Sure.
We're not trying to predict a race and so on, just kind of, seeing through the seams of all this.
Well, and based on polling, based on history, this is the reality that all the candidates face.
I'm looking at, though, some pocketbook issues. When we're talking right now about the war in Iran and so on, and the price of gas, does that motivate people to kind of say, hey, I'm not an automatic for one candidate or the other?
Yeah, I think this election is going to be a pocketbook election. People are going to vote based on the economy. Things have been, in some ways, very good. The stock market is going really well, but the stock market is not the economy. It is not everybody's economic experience. So when you go to the gas pump and you're paying more than you were 6 months ago, people know that and people feel that deep down. So the question is that enough for people to say, I want to get rid of who's in office? Is it enough to say, well, look, give the people in office another chance to fix the things that need fixing? That's the decision they're going to have to make.
All right, this is the 5th. Let's move on now to the 9th district on the Democrat side. 3 people running as Democrats in the 9th district. You've got Douglas Crockett, Adam Murphy, and Joy Powers. You've got a minister, a software engineer, and a cattle farmer running in this one.
Sure, yeah. And this one is kind of wide open, right? Yeah. So I don't have any sort of favorites, as it were. I think there's been maybe one poll done very close on the candidates. So this one is going to be kind of down to the wire. It's the 9th district. If the 5th district tends to lean red, as they say, lean Republican,
yeah,
the 9th district is all but falling over a Republican. So, you know, not that it doesn't matter, but this is sort of a race where the Democrats are going to have to put up somebody who's going to have to really, really fight just to get any sort of foothold in that district. Okay, and of course, the winner will take on incumbent Republican Congressman Morgan Griffith. Certainly, again, we want to be fair, but can any of the Democrats make any kind of formidable challenge here? Not likely, right? Again, and it's not which party is better or worse. It's that in the 9th district, most of the voters, meaning more than 50%, register Republican, vote Republican. Griffith has won by comfortable margins every time he's won. So it would take a very big upset for Griffith to be in trouble this time. Okay, we're going to move now to the 6th congressional district. The 6th is locked in for November. Each party only had one candidate. Republican Congressman Ben Cline is running for another term against Democratic challenger Beth Macy. How do you see this one shaping up here? Well, this one is actually kind of interesting, even though I'm going to contradict myself, that the 6th also leans very heavily Republican, right? So if you look at the voting patterns over the past, several elections when they redid the districts, the 6th is heavily Republican. Ben Cline has won comfortably each time. There's some different factors going on here. Like you said, the economic factors are going to be a wild card. And Beth Macy is kind of a wild card, right? She's a Democrat. She's running as a Democrat. But she's kind of an outsider even to the Democratic Party. They have been, they've been supportive, but maybe a little lukewarm compared to, say, Tom Perriello, who has raised money with the Democrats very easily. Beth Macy has been raising money really just from supporters. She also has name recognition. If you don't know sort of who Beth Macy is, right, she wrote the book Factory Man about the furniture business in Bassett. She also wrote Dope Sick, right, which is about the meth problems in parts of Virginia. So she has a history here. She has name recognition. Is that enough to overcome and beat Ben Cline? I don't think so, but this is going to be a very interesting race, probably one you want to watch just to see if her numbers start ticking up and his numbers start ticking down. That's going to set alarm bells off. Wonder if there is a debate between these two. That could be a deciding factor, but generally the incumbent, when they feel like, even if there's a challenge, they want to skip a lot of any kind of debates, right? It's hard to get folks to debate these days in districts where they're comfortable. They don't need to debate in order to win. And so it's very hard to convince them, because what happens is, and I'm not saying this would happen with Ben Cline, but the incumbent goes to a debate and they say something off the cuff that then their opponent runs in a commercial 40,000 times, saying this is a terrible person because they said this thing randomly at a debate. So, incumbents say, let's skip the debate, right? Let's not get ourselves into hot water accidentally. Another interesting race right here for the 9th Congressional District. Now, this reminder, the Congressional District stayed the same even after the redistricting push earlier this year. You touched on that a little bit. This is the current map, the 5th, 6th, and 9th districts, all currently held by Republicans. Now, let's take a look. This was the proposed map, which could have flipped the 5th and the 6th blue states. But we don't have this one right now. So some of those Democrats we were just talking about, they were thinking, man, if this one passed, and by the way, the voters did approve it, right? Yes. But it was overturned. If this one would stay in place, they were like thinking this would be smooth sailing for them. Well, I certainly think that was why we see so many people sort of coming out and running in these races, because for a minute, it looked like there was a toss-up, right? And it was not just that the Democrats might win these districts, but that there was competition, right? And the lines had been moved, and all this kind of stuff was in flux. And so I think a lot of people came out. We don't normally see what we saw, for example, in the 6th, where it's Klein and Macy already. That's normal, where the parties, it's all kind of pro forma. You don't really need to have a primary. But instead, what we see is there's 2, 3 candidates in each party running in these districts because at a minimum, they think they can actually get their voice heard.
Right. All right. Interesting how the maps have changed.
Yes.
And now we have a whole different complexion as far as what the races will truly look like come this fall.
Yes.
Now, let's move on to the U.S. Senate race. There are 3 Republicans running: Kim Farrington, Burt Mitsawa, and David Williams. We want to know what's your take on this. These are Republicans. Now, you would think Republicans, after what we just saw on the congressional side, they would have some kind of edge. They're taking on Warner. One of these winners will take on Warner. But what are you seeing in this particular race?
Well, so, it's good to remember that for the Senate, it is a statewide race, right? So the whole state of Virginia gets to vote, not just the Central or Southwest.
Right.
And, of course, that means Northern Virginia gets to vote, and the Hampton Roads area gets to vote. And that means that all of a sudden the Democrats, who have been winning statewide elections in Virginia for the past couple at least, right? It means that, and Warner is an incumbent. People know him. He's been senator for a long time at this point.
Right.
So from the Republican perspective, it's, they have a big hill to climb. And you would think, hey, the Republicans do really well. Yes, in certain parts of Virginia they do. But whoever wins this, and it's maybe going to be Mitsawa because he's ahead in the polls, has to win the whole state, not just the corner of the state. And that's the problem they have.
And the biggest challenge for them tends to be like in the Nova area.
Yes.
There, right?
And that's where the population is, right? So, if you've ever, of course, driven up there in Northern Virginia, it's crowded, a lot of people up there. And since it tends to lean Democratic, then when you get the whole state together, the Democrats then kind of overwhelm some of the other parts.
I got a question. Do you think that if President Trump came down and endorsed any of these and campaigned for them in the state of Virginia, would this be closer?
It might be. It might be. I mean, certainly if he was to come out to support any one of these 3 in the primary, that person would probably be a lock then, because I think that would be a huge endorsement. When it comes to the state in general, I mean, I think that President Trump has a mixed reception in Virginia, especially up north, where I think a lot of the policies he has had in his second term they've impacted Northern Virginia in a sort of negative way. So I'm not sure if he came out and supported one of these that it would have the impact that the party wants, right? So we'll have to see if he does. But there's no reason why he wouldn't.
Okay. Well, whoever wins of those will go head-to-head with Democratic Senator and incumbent Mark Warner. It's the same here as the congressional races that faced Republicans on the flip side for the Democrats. And we want to be fair again. Could any of those challengers, these Republicans, put up that fight against a Mark Warner?
I don't think so, right? I mean, it's not like it's going to be a blowout, but can they get more than 50%? Warner has generally been reelected in pretty comfortable margins, so I'm gonna say no. I don't think that's going out on a branch or being unfair. I think it's just looking at the polling, looking at the numbers, past elections, and just being realistic.
It would take something serious against Warner to damage that kind of candidacy. Right?
I think, it would take some sort of scandal to erupt, and we saw with Maine that can happen, right? Definitely. But Warner has the advantage of being around for a long time, and frankly, any dirt that he might have had probably would have come up by now. But you never know, right? So never say never. Once we get into that general election, we're going to see the knives come out, as they say, and we may, maybe something will come out. But I wouldn't count on it.
It's unlikely.
Yeah.
All right, so we want to show you a new slate here on your screen. We want you to mark your dates on your calendar for this now through August 1st. August 1st. It's early voting now through August 1st. You can go in person to your local office to vote. If you want your ballot through the mail, you'll want to apply by July 24th. Apply for that. And the primary election itself is August 4th. Now, let's have a little bit of fun on the local side.
Sure.
All right. We want to remind you of what's happening in the race for Lynchburg City Council. There are 3 open seats and 3 Democratic candidates. So all 3 of the Democrats will be on the ballot in November, automatically. All right. As for the Republicans, as you know, this is a different story. These 10 candidates that we're going to show you once again, we've been reporting on them for the longest time. The 10 candidates right here, they ran in that Republican firehouse primary to try to trim the number to 3, but the Republican state of Virginia State Republican Central Committee, they tossed out those results, and it opened the door for these candidates to file for the general election. They will not have party official or affiliation, that is, next to their names on the ballot. And you add that to the 3 Democrats we just showed you and just the 3 vacant seats. You got these candidates. Some of them won't be running. You got the 3 Democrats. How are you seeing this thing play out?
Well, this is going to be very interesting, and you know, it reflects this attempt by the local Republican Party to have a primary that they felt they could control a little bit more than having an open primary that you now have with the other, you know, seats for the House of Representatives, et cetera. And you know, that was thrown out, and it sort of you know, it reminds me that, look, people went to go vote for the referendum for redistricting.
Right.
That passed, but then got thrown out. Some people, not a whole lot, but you know, like I think it was like 1,600 went to go vote for these folks
right.
at the firehouse primary. That gets thrown out. I will say that for the primary that you just mentioned, August 4th, that you can go vote early now.
Yeah.
Those will not get thrown out. That is a normal, regular primary. Those will count.
They will count.
They will count.
All right, they will count, folks.
But,
don't worry about your vote not counting that go round. Yeah.
Exactly.
And what's the difference, though?
Well, the difference is that when they did the firehouse primary, that was kind of unusual.
Yep.
It was an attempt to kind of run around the normal procedure, which would have been the primaries that we're in now. That are open. Anyone can go vote. If you go down to vote, you can vote for either party. You can't vote for both, but you can vote for either one. You don't have to be a Republican to vote for the Republican ticket. They wanted to make sure only Republicans voted in this particular primary so that they could, you know, sort of have real Republicans win. I'm not going to say who that was, but, you know, that was the idea. Instead, it kind of backfired.
Yeah, and it was at one place.
It was,
so
yes.
There are so many other different ways that you can vote in the upcoming primary too, and it won't just be in one place.
Yeah, you go to your regular polling place, or you go early, or you get the mail-in ballot, right? With this, you know, the firehouse primary, I believe they had, I want to say they had 1 mail-in ballot, or they had, you know, very few, maybe a couple dozen. Okay. Right. So that was kind of a difference. The result is now that we have most of these folks running. I don't think Melder's running, right?
Yeah, because he's now the local party chair.
Yeah, okay. But you know, I think pretty much everybody else is running, and you know, certainly you have, you know, a lot of characters up here, people who are very passionate about what they believe in, and I wonder how that's going to play out, right? Yeah. Because the Republicans have been doing very well in city council, winning elections, putting people in there, running as Republicans, and you know, defeating Democratic candidates. Okay, now you have a choice of Republicans. Yes. You do not have a choice of Democrats. So if you're a Democrat and you want to vote in the city election, you have 3 choices for 3 seats. You're done. If you're a Republican and you want to choose 3 people, okay, well, I may choose, you know, Reed and Misjuns and Taylor. Okay, great. But you vote Taylor and Reed and Bratton. Okay, well, so now all of a sudden, you know, those votes are mixed, and maybe nobody gets enough votes to defeat the 3 Democrats. Okay. That's the danger that we're sort of in at this point.
Yeah. So is it like there are 3 Republicans now that are on the ballot? They weren't on the same team. Yeah. They were on the ballot. 3 positions, as you mentioned, are open. Does a Democrat have a chance to sneak in with a couple of Republicans, let's say?
It's entirely possible, because if that vote is split on the Republican side, so you know, Reed was not on that ballot, and she has supporters. So if they say, well, now is my chance to vote for her, because I was not going to be able to vote for her before, but now I can. And so now that vote gets kind of split up into different pieces. Mm-hmm. And like I said, the Democrats don't split up the vote. So, yeah, there's this possibility that one or more of the Republicans lose that race because people started voting for lots of different, you know, 8 or 9 different people, right? Whereas the Democrats are going to be in kind of lockstep. Yep. Is that enough lockstep? Is that enough to defeat the Republicans? at the ballot box, that's what we're going to have to kind of keep an eye out for.
And we will keep an eye out for that with you all the rest of the way through the election cycle, all the way through November.
Yeah,
for sure.
it promises to be a pretty exciting election season. You know, the primaries are going to be kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But once we're done with that, then we get into the real race, and the general election promises to be very interesting this time.
All right. Always fun to talk to you about our favorite sport, politics.
Yes.
Dr. David Richards, great to have you with me. Thank you for joining me. I'm Pat Simon. Thanks for joining us for this special election 2026 preview on ABC 13.